You know what the deadline for me is? When it's over.
After developing the framework for a peace deal in Geneva, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky wants to come to Washington to work out the final details directly with President Trump. But Mr. Trump is content to let his diplomats handle the negotiations.
I would like to come, but I think we should get a deal done first.
The president says envoy Steve Witkoff will meet with Russia's president as soon as next week. But now, controversy, after Bloomberg published a transcript of a phone call between Witkoff and a Russian ambassador. Witkoff appears to coach the Russians on how to deal with President Trump. Even some Republican lawmakers uncomfortable with the exchange. Congressman Don Bacon writing on X, would a Russian paid agent do less than he should be fired. President Trump downplaying the call.
I haven't heard it, but I heard it was standard negotiation.
Ukraine seems more open to the deal's terms after the original 28-point Trump plan was scaled back. That plan was seen as more sympathetic to Russia, granting it Ukrainian territory it doesn't currently occupy, and limiting the size of the Ukrainian military. European allies watching negotiations closely.
If today we legitimize and formalize the undermining of borders, we open the doors for more wars tomorrow, and we cannot let this happen.
Russia threatening to walk away from negotiations if the original plan is off the table.
The Russians, what they're good at is saying no. and repeating the same thing. That's how they negotiate. The Russians think that they have the upper hand.
The Kremlin says the leak of that phone call transcript to Bloomberg News was designed to disrupt the peace talks. The Russians also warning that any speculation the deal to end the war in Ukraine is close is premature. Melanie Zanona, NBC News, Washington.
Three people have been arrested in Hong Kong in connection with a deadly fire at multiple high-rise apartment buildings. At least 44 people were killed and nearly 280 others still missing, and nearly 30 are hospitalized. Ivan Rodriguez has the news.
Wednesday afternoon in Hong Kong, a raging fire sent up a column of flames and thick smoke as it spread through bamboo scaffolding and construction netting that was set up around the outside of a housing complex consisting of multiple high-rise apartment buildings. Hong Kong fire officials issued a message for those trapped in their homes.
The best thing to do now is to close all the doors and windows, seal them up with tape and wet napkins. Call us and tell us your unit number and the amount of people inside your apartment, and we will be in touch as soon as possible.
The public housing estate, consisting of 8 high-rise towers and nearly 2,000 apartments, is home to more than 4,000 people. About 36% of residents are 65 or older, according to government-sourced data. One evacuated resident told CNN no fire alarms went off in her home. UK-based independent fire and emergency planning consultant Stephen McKenzie says the fire spreading blocks is due in part to the use of bamboo scaffolding, an ancient construction technique that dates back to the Han Dynasty and is still widely used in the city.
Ultimately, it's combustible. Therefore, when you get a fully developed fire, it will lose its integrity. The fire load, as it spreads up to the building, will adhere to the building, be drawn into the building using a chimney effect.
Residents and bystanders watched in horror as the fire raged into the night. It's the deadliest blaze in Hong Kong in nearly 3 decades. Ivan Rodriguez, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
What began as repairs quickly spiraled into tragedy. In one of the world's most densely populated cities, flames erupted mid-afternoon at Wong Fuk Court, a housing complex in the northern district of Tai Po in Hong Kong. Bamboo scaffolding and protective netting caught fire, spreading rapidly to engulf a complex of high-rise towers. Residents described loud crackling from burning bamboo and collapsing scaffolding, thick smoke pouring from windows, and flaming debris raining down. By nightfall, authorities escalated the response to a level 5 alarm fire, the highest severity level under Hong Kong's emergency system. Temperatures so hot, firefighters were unable to enter buildings.
The fire is spreading quickly to nearby buildings, and we received numerous assistance calls from the public, and also debris and scaffolding of the affected buildings are falling down, so pose additional danger to our frontline personnel.
The inferno consumed multiple towers in the complex, home to nearly 2,000 apartments and more than 4,000 residents. The crisis sparking mass evacuations and desperate rescue efforts. The blaze behind me is a level 5 fire. That is the highest level alert. I can smell smoke in the air, and occasionally there are bangs as debris falls to the ground. Now, the buildings behind me were undergoing renovation, and videos taken by eyewitnesses showed the fire spreading across the bamboo scaffolding and green mesh covering the high-rise buildings. Hours after the fire began, reports emerged that people remained trapped inside smoke-filled apartments. Family members outside saying they'd been unable to contact relatives. Hundreds of first responders dispatched to the scene, but people watching their homes burn left with little room for hope.
Look, all the apartments are just burning. I do not know what to do. I hope the government can help us to settle down after this. One neighbor said he still could not find his wife. I know someone who has young children and elderly in their family. I called him and he said he was still trapped inside the building.
As night fell, nearby buildings were evacuated and temporary shelters opened for hundreds of displaced residents. Authorities closed major roads and issued warnings to nearby communities to stay indoors, close windows, and avoid the area. Authorities are beginning the difficult task of determining what caused one of Hong Kong's worst residential fires in years. The human impact, however, is already painfully clear. Laura Westbrook, Al Jazeera, Tai Po District, Hong Kong.
Guinea-Bissau's President Umaro Sissoco Embalo has been arrested and detained by military officers who have announced they've taken full control of the country. The borders are sealed, the electoral process is suspended, and once again, the people are being told that their leaders have failed them. But let me tell you something, my people. This is not just another military coup. This is a symptom of a disease that has been eating away at our continent for decades. This is what happens when puppet leaders forget that they serve the people, not foreign masters in Paris or Washington. The military officers, calling themselves the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order, made their announcement from the Armed Forces headquarters broadcast on state television. They speak of discovering plots to destabilize the nation involving politicians, drug barons, and foreign elements. They've suspended all media activities, halted the electoral process, closed all borders, and imposed a 9-hour curfew starting from 9 p.m. local time. Now, let's talk about what really matters here, shall we? This coup didn't happen in a vacuum. This military takeover came just as Guinea-Bissau awaited results from a hotly contested presidential election held last Sunday, with both incumbent President Embalo and opposition candidate Fernando Dias da Costa claiming victory. Sound familiar? It should, because this is the same tired script we've seen play out across Africa for decades. But here's what makes this situation even more interesting, my brothers and sisters. Embalo was no angel. The main opposition force, the PAIGC, the party that led the nationalist movement for independence from Portugal in 1974, and its leader Domingos Simões Pereira, were barred from participating in this year's election after authorities said they filed their papers late. This is the democracy they're always preaching to us about. This is the freedom they claim we need their help to protect. Guinea-Bissau has been shaken by at least 9 coups and attempted coups between 1974, when it gained independence from Portugal, and 2020, when Embalo took office. The man even claimed to have survived 3 coup attempts during his time in power. His critics accused him of manufacturing crises as an excuse for crackdowns. Does this sound like a leader serving his people or a leader serving his own interests? Now, here's where the story gets really interesting, my people. While Guinea-Bissau burns, where is French President Emmanuel Macron? He's on a 4-nation tour of Africa from November 20th to 24th, covering Mauritius, South Africa, Gabon and Angola, in what analysts describe as one of Paris's most urgent attempts in years to stem the rapid erosion of its influence on the continent. Let that sink in for a moment. As another one of their puppet states collapses, Macron is scrambling across Africa trying to salvage what's left of France's colonial empire. The tour comes amid unprecedented diplomatic, military and economic setbacks for France across regions long considered core to its post-colonial sphere. The timing couldn't be more symbolic, could it? France's military retreat from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger marked the most dramatic rollback of French power in the Sahel in decades. Popular protests in these countries, combined with military juntas eager to redefine alliances, forced French troops out entirely. Even traditional allies have shifted away. Chad sought to renegotiate its military partnership, while Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire signalled interest in reducing France's military footprint. But wait, it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective. Macron further damaged relations in January 2025 when he publicly suggested African leaders had forgotten to thank France, prompting strong reactions from Senegal and Chad. Can you imagine the arrogance? The sheer audacity to expect gratitude for decades of exploitation, resource theft, and propping up dictators who brutalize their own people. This is the same France that has kept 14 African countries in economic bondage through the CFA franc. The same France that has military bases scattered across our continent like they still own us. The same France that extracts billions in resources from African soil while our people live in poverty. And they want us to say thank you? Let me take you back a few weeks, my brothers and sisters, to October 2025. On October 12th, CAPSAT, an elite unit of the Madagascar Armed Forces, overthrew the government of President Andry Rajoelina, the culmination of a protest movement which began in late September. This wasn't happening in the Sahel. This wasn't happening in a traditional French sphere. This was Madagascar, an island nation off the east coast of Africa. The coup followed protests that broke out across Madagascar due to power and water outages that have been very common nationwide, especially in the capital Antananarivo. When President Rajoelina tried to calm protesters by dismissing his prime minister, it was too late. The people had spoken, and this time, the military listened to the people, not the politicians. Led by Gen Z groups, the anti-government protests began on September 25th, initially to express anger over water and power outages, but soon expanded to encompass wider grievances over the cost of living, poverty, and alleged government corruption. The youth of Africa are waking up, my people. They're tired of empty promises. They're tired of leaders who serve foreign interests while their own children starve. When Colonel Michael Randrianarina announced that the military had taken charge, there were celebrations in the streets of the capital, Antananarivo. People cheered, they shouted, they welcomed this announcement. Why? Because sometimes, when the democratic process is so corrupted, so manipulated, that it no longer serves the people seek alternatives. Now, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, because Guinea-Bissau is not an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern, a wave, a revolution that's been building across West Africa for years now. From 2020 to 2023, there were 9 successful military coups in Africa, with 6 taking place in West Africa, 2 in Mali, August 2020 and May 2021, 1 in Guinea, September 2021, 2 in Burkina Faso, January 2022 and September 2022, and 1 in Niger, July 2023. These aren't random events, my brothers and sisters. This is a pattern, this is a movement, this is West Africa saying enough. But here's what's truly revolutionary about what's happening. The people are supporting these coups. Let me say that again for those in the back. The people are supporting these coups. Why? Because these coups are removing the very leaders who have sold us out to foreign interests, who have allowed our resources to be plundered while our children go hungry, who have turned democracy into a joke where the only winners are those with foreign backing. In Mali, protesters flooded the streets in 2020 to welcome the military's ousting of President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. In Guinea, crowds rallied behind the junta after Alpha Condé was removed in 2021. In Burkina Faso, both 2022 coups were met with widespread approval. Following Niger's 2023 coup, thousands of supporters gathered in the capital, Niamey, to rally around the coup leaders, even as they faced international condemnation and threats of military intervention. And then there's Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Oh, my brothers and sisters, let me tell you about this young captain who has become the symbol of what's possible when African leaders actually serve their people instead of foreign masters. At just 36 years old, Captain Ibrahim Traoré has become a powerful symbol of Pan-Africanism and the revolution sweeping across the Sahel. Since taking power in September 2022, he has done what many thought impossible. He has actually begun to fulfill the promises that others only made during campaigns. Listen to what this revolutionary leader has accomplished. He has nationalized 2 gold mines and stopped exporting unrefined gold to Europe, instead inaugurating a national gold refinery expected to process 150 tons annually. He has reversed salary increases for government officials while remaining on his military captain's earnings. He has expelled French military forces and civilian-led volunteers for the defense of the homeland, now collaborate with the government and fraternal forces from Niger and Mali to combat terrorist groups. Valentin Sankara, the brother of the legendary Thomas Sankara, says of Traoré, Ibrahim Traoré is the continuation of Burkina Faso's revolution. You can see the work being done throughout Burkina Faso today. That shows he is sincere. It's not about promises, it's real, concrete. And the people love him. At President John Mahama's inauguration in Ghana on January 7th, Traoré received the loudest applause of all 21 African heads of state. Not the oldest, not the richest, not the one with the fanciest suits or the smoothest English, the one who speaks truth to power and stands up for Africa. His image appears across social media throughout West Africa and beyond, sometimes stoic in military fatigues, other times draped in Pan-African flags. In viral TikTok edits, Traoré leads imaginary armies, topples Western empires, and is hailed as Africa's messiah, the people's captain, and the caption rings out, France must fall. This is unprecedented in modern African history, my people. In April 2025, there was an international day in solidarity with Ibrahim Traoré and the people of Burkina Faso. When has the continent ever rallied to protect a sitting African leader like this? When have we seen young Africans from Tanzania to South Africa wearing t-shirts with an African leader's face? Not because they're paid to, but because they genuinely believe in what he represents. Now, as Guinea-Bissau joins this wave of military takeovers, everyone is asking the same question. Will this be another revolutionary coup like Burkina Faso under Traoré, or will it be just another group of soldiers who become the very thing they claim to oppose? This is the critical question, my brothers and sisters, because history has taught us that not all coups are created equal. For every Thomas Sankara, there's been a dozen others who talked revolutionary while filling their Swiss bank accounts. For every Traoré trying to build refineries and industrialize his country, there are others who simply replace one puppet master with another. As political scientist John J. Chin notes, coup risk remains comparatively high in Africa, and since 2020, the continent has now seen 10 successful coups across 8 countries. But the military takeover in Madagascar marks only the second coup in that period to take place outside of the Sahel region, a signal that Africa's coup problem is becoming a continental one. The Guinea-Bissau coup is particularly significant because it's happening in West Africa, right under the nose of ECOWAS. This is the same regional body that's supposed to prevent exactly this kind of thing. But here's the truth that nobody in those air-conditioned conference rooms wants to admit. ECOWAS has lost its legitimacy with the people. Let's talk about the economic community of West African states, shall we? This organization that was supposed to promote integration, peace, and stability in West Africa. This organization that's supposed to defend democracy and constitutional order. Where has it been?
I'm sorry, my mic off. So guys, I think you hear another information about what is ongoing right now in Guinea-Bissau. Another coup has been taken. Military group of people are taking over in Guinea-Bissau. And what they are now doing, they are even criticizing the Western, especially France, for exploiting the continent and the country for a long period of time. And the new junta leader, what is he saying? He even comparing a coup with the Burkina Faso president, the Guinean president, and all the other members that took coup, that have carried out coup in Africa. So we got some scene here. I think I would like to bring that one for people to see. Very, very interesting in Guinea-Bissau there. So I think I want to share this one. Yeah, this is it. And I will play this.
This is why everyone must pay attention to what is happening in Guinea-Bissau. On November 26th, Guinea-Bissau's capital fell into familiar hands, not through votes, but gunfire. At first, it sounded like a robbery. Gunshots echoed near the presidential palace, and people started running for their dear lives. But when armored vehicles started circling and troops in full combat gear took position, the picture became clear. That day, state-run TVs switched to General Denis Nchama, who declared the military had taken over, all thanks to an intelligence report allegedly exposing a plot to tamper with the country's recent election, one involving politicians and unnamed foreign collaborators.
Military for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order Statement. established by the high leadership of different branches of the armed forces, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order, has just assumed full powers of the State of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau. Deeply committed to the values of national security, civil peace, the defense of territorial integrity, and the independence of Guinea-Bissau, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order is currently responding to the recent discovery of an ongoing, carefully orchestrated plan to destabilize and undermine the stability of our country. For the execution of this plan, an elaborate and detailed operational scheme was meticulously set up by certain national politicians, both national and foreign, as well as an attempt to manipulate election results. The implementation of this plan was discovered by the State Intelligence Service, a cache of war weapons. Thus, until the entire situation is properly clarified and the conditions for a full return to constitutional normality are restored, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has decided to immediately depose the President of the Republic, to close until further notice of all institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau.
But how did they get here? You see, 3 days earlier, the people of this tiny West African nation turned out in droves, many clinging to the hope that this time maybe the votes would matter. But that optimism was already on life support, because the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, the country's liberation party, was locked out early. Its leader, Domingos Simão Pereira, was barred by the Supreme Court, accused of missing a filing deadline by a few hours. Another opposition group, Pai Terra Ranca, was disqualified earlier in September. That left President Embalo, an ex-brigadier turned politician who grabbed power in a contested 2020 runoff, facing a cluster of unknown challengers. His only serious opponent was Fernando Diaz, a soft-spoken engineer backed by the disqualified candidates. Still, the people came out in numbers. Turnout estimates crossed 75%. Many said they were simply tired.
But everything is going smooth. We expected good results from the Guinea-Bissau citizens in diaspora Gambia. Those that are still at home, let them come out and vote. We choose who is going to rule Guinea-Bissau for the next 5 years.
No matter who wins, the country must not lose. I can't tell you who will lose. I hope it will be someone who is ready to move the country.
My people, this is another dramatic change in our body politics in Africa. I believe politicians or the so-called democratic not going to work in Africa anymore, because I can see all these countries with the military pushing away the democracy, the so-called democracy we have. So I think, I don't know when, but what I believe, the African continent will get away with, they'll push away politicians. And if we're not careful, all the other countries are going to be military leaders. What I see, because now the imitation is on. All the other countries are following the footsteps of other countries, and they're seeing the progress. You see that?
Coastlines and officials have long been a smuggler's dream. Top military officers, politicians, and judges have been implicated for years with near total impunity. So when the military decided to take over, they justified their actions using old lines: corruption, foreign interference, and drug-linked politicians. the same words used during a 2022 attempted coup that saw heavy gunfire around the palace.
For the execution of this plan, an elaborate and detailed operational scheme was meticulously set up by certain national politicians with the direct and active participation of the well-known and notorious drug baron, who is widely recognized for his criminal activities and influence in the illegal drug trade, both national and foreign, as well as an attempt to manipulate election results. The implementation of this plan was discovered by the state intelligence service, a cache of war weapons. Thus, until the entire situation is properly clarified and the conditions for a full return to constitutional normality are restored, the High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order has decided to immediately depose the President of the Republic to close until further notice of all institutions of the Republic of Guinea-Bissau.
By Monday night, Bissau had turned silent. Red Beret troops controlled all major junctions. Internet slowed, social media platforms were blocked, the airport shut down, stranding observers and journalists.
Suspend until further notice the activities of all media outlets. Immediately suspend the ongoing electoral process. Completely close the land, sea, and national air borders for all travelers and transport. A curfew is established from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. until further notice, until the necessary conditions are met to restore the constitutional normality of the state of Guinea. The High Military Command for the Restoration of National Security and Public Order will exercise state power from this date onward. The High Military Command for the Restoration of State Security and Public Order appeals for calm, for the cooperation of Guineans, and for everyone's understanding in the face of these serious situations imposed by the national emergency. Mission, November 26, 2025, High Military Command for the Restoration of National Order.
ECOWAS heads of state plan to meet for an emergency virtual summit. The African Union has already condemned the coup, but no one is expecting much because after Guinea-Bissau's 2012 coup, both bodies suspended the country only to welcome it back without full civilian rule ever restored. Sanctions have been routinely promised, rarely delivered. And across West Africa, the script is similar. Eliminate real competition, claim a landslide, and when tensions boil over, send in the military. Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, and now Guinea-Bissau joins the list again.
Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné here.
Anyabila,